Hu Tao remains as one of the strongest pyro DPSs in the game. Although talk about Hu Tao's dialogue is at an all-time high with her big role in the recent Lantern Rite quest, the discussion about her gameplay has slowed down a tiny bit because she's an older character that many people agree is consistently strong and straightforward to build. That may be true on a simple level, but small additions since Inazuma and Sumeru have definitely changed the way you should look at building Hu Tao. As always, this guide will aim to give you updated information about Hu Tao's best artifacts and weapons to general playstyle and team compositions. So without further ado, let's get this guide rolling. Getting into the basics of Hu Tao's skill, I'm sure you already know that her elemental skill will consume 30% of her remaining HP to enter the Paramita Papilio state. This state will grant Pyro Infusion, resistance to interruption, and a flat attack bonus based on her max HP. One common misconception is that Hu Tao's multipliers are HP based, but in reality she's slightly different from characters like Yelan, who actually does have true HP scaling. Instead, she's comparable to Ito or Noelle, who still benefit from any attack buff provided by their builds or teammates. It is simply beneficial to focus HP percent over attack percent because her skill's conversion rate is pretty good and her base attack is extremely low. When you charge attack an enemy under Hu Tao's Pyro Infusion, you will also mark them with a Blood Blossom for 8 seconds or refresh the duration if the enemy is already marked with a Blood Blossom. An enemy marked will take an instance of non-negligible pyro damage once every 4 seconds. Both the Hu Tao's Ascension talents will revolve around her Paramita Papilio state, so it's worth mentioning them now. Her first Ascension talent will increase the crit rate of other party members by 12% for 8 seconds after this Pyro Infusion ends. Hu Tao's second Ascension talent will grant her 33% pyro damage bonus as long as she's below 50% HP. Not only does this bonus have no timer attached to it, but the HP management to stay under the 50% threshold is super easy given that Hu Tao can reliably lower her health by activating the Paramita Papilio state. Hu Tao's Elemental Burst is very easy to understand, with most of the basic overview required already finished with her elemental skill. Activate Hu Tao's Elemental Burst to swing her ghost around for AoE pyro damage and regenerate HP based on the amount of enemies hit, where 5 enemies hit reaches the maximum HP generated. The importance of staying under 50% HP is further emphasized for Hu Tao because her Elemental Burst will have a higher multiplier if she's below that threshold. When combined with her 33% pyro damage bonus Ascension talent, you start to miss out on a lot of damage between her charge attacks and Elemental Burst, so it's important to limit healing in her teams, as we'll see in the team section of this video. Moving into combos, this is by far the most important part of the video for Hu Tao. What makes Hu Tao so strong is her ability to vaporize every single charge attack with the right hydro support. This is already broken by itself, but it's further abused with the charge attack animation cancels by either jumping at C0 or dashing at C1. For C0 Hu Tao, the main benefit of jumping to animation cancel is to prevent her dash from distancing herself from the enemy. Players don't strictly have to animation cancel every single time if you think the inputs are too difficult, but against smaller enemies that you can charge attack through, it is recommended to learn these combos in case you're out of stamina to reposition. The first combo for C0 Hu Tao players to consider is a normal attack into a charge attack, then cancelling the charge attack animation with a jump. This animation cancel is commonly abbreviated N1CJ by the theory crafting community. A perfect N1CJ rotation consists of 9 charge attacks before you run out of stamina, but as long as you get at least 7 or 8 charge attacks, you can consider that a solid rotation. The other combo to consider is to normal attack twice before charge attacking and then cancelling the animation with a jump, which looks like this and is commonly abbreviated N2CJ. A realistic or humanly perfect N2CJ rotation consists of 8 charge attacks, but as long as you get 7 charge attacks in, then again consider it a good rotation. You may be asking, well, which combo should I choose? Unless you really want to nitpick the details, the answer to that question is just to pick whatever one you want. However, there are some pros and cons to consider for those who like to optimize their gameplay. Normal attacking once before charge attacking's biggest upsides are lack of difficulty and less hydro application eaten up by normal attacks. On the other hand, normal attacking twice before charge attacking is the most optimal combo for the more recently popular Hu Tao teams, like the double hydro setup with both Xingqiu and Yelan. Because it is the theoretical best combo for the majority of Hu Tao teams today, it's no surprise that a con of this combo is that the inputs of N2CJ are much harder to nail compared to N1CJ. Unlocking Hu Tao's first constellation opens up new combos. C1 will remove the charge attack stamina cost during the Paramita Papilio state, making Hu Tao not only safer to play because you have more stamina to dash around, but also deal more DPS because cancelling a charge attack with a dash is faster than cancelling it with a jump. Any constellations beyond C1 are strictly for whales and Hu Tao simps because they only provide small DPS increases, so the following C1 combos will also apply all the way up to C6. The first combo for C1 Hu Tao is the single normal attack into a charge attack then a dash, commonly abbreviated N1CD. You may see in my demonstration that after every 2 dash cancels, a jump cancel is weaved in for the next charge attack. If you try dash cancelling every charge attack, you'll notice that your inputs get stuck and it ends up messing up the rhythm. This is because Genshin Impact has a hidden dash cooldown that is not tied to your stamina. The game only allows players to use 2 dashes in quick succession before forcing the player to wait a few moments before dashing again. With Hu Tao C1, dash cancelling hits that limit, so it's important for players to either not animation cancel or use a jump cancel after performing 2 dash cancels in a row. The second combo for C1 Hu Tao uses 2 normal attacks and a charge attack then a dash, commonly abbreviated N2CD. Unlike N1CD, N2CD is slow enough with dashing that it does not conflict with the hidden dash cooldown that I talked about earlier. Pros and cons of each combo are pretty much identical to the differences listed for the C0 Hu Tao combos, just with the hidden dash cooldown added in. For the 1 normal attack dash combos, getting 9 to 10 charge attacks should be considered a good rotation for the normal player, while 2 normal attack dash combos should have that range reduced by 1. Jumping into the next section of this guide, Hu Tao's artifacts remain fairly consistent but with additional notable alternatives since her initial release. Back to Hu Tao's release in version 1.3, the 4-set Crimson Witch has been Hu Tao's best in slot for the consistency, and that has not changed today. Even though you can only get 1 of the 3 stacks from the 4-set effect, the extra pyro reaction damage is all she needs to excel with this artifact set. The alternatives to Crimson Witch are where most of Genshin's new additions come into play. Everyone hates farming the Crimson Witch domain, and even though you can now box Crimson Witch pieces, it still seems like you can't get any good pieces. That's why the 4-set Shimenawas Reminiscence exists. It's one of the 2 sets that can remain competitive with Crimson Witch in terms of damage, and its domain is extremely resin efficient. While you farm Shimenawas for Hu Tao, you'll also be farming Emblem for Hu Tao's crucial supports, which are Xingqiu or Yulan. The only downside of the set is the energy drain, which makes it extremely difficult to burst every rotation as Hu Tao. The last recommended 4-set for Hu Tao is the 4-set Gilded Dreams. Although it also resides in a resin-efficient domain, the artifact set has a lot more caveats to consider before using it on Hu Tao. First things first, the 4-set effect's attack isn't very beneficial to Hu Tao because of her ridiculously low base attack. If you are using this set, make sure that your Hu Tao teams have no other pyro character to get the maximum elemental mastery buff from the artifact set. Second, if you're using Dragons Bane, which has an EM stat on the weapon, you should consider avoiding the 4-set Gilded Dreams because you may lose out on much needed damage bonuses that other sets could provide. In other words, only use Gilded if you really need the EM and the substats are noticeably better than your Crimson Witch pieces. If you're not sure what to do, then you can always play it safe and run a 2-set Crimson Witch with either the 2-set Tenacity or the 2 sets that provide Elemental Mastery as a placeholder combination until you iron out your Hu Tao's artifacts. For artifact stats, generally Hu Tao wants HP in the Sands, pyro damage bonus in the Goblet, and crit rate or crit damage in the Circlet. EM is viable in the Sands, especially if you're running a polearm like Staff of Homa or Staff of Scarlet Sands, but more often than not HP is the safer pick because it should be easy to get a few EM rolls in substats. Substat focus should be crit rate, crit damage, elemental mastery, and HP %. It's important to get at least 100 EM on Hu Tao, whether that be through your substats in EM Sands or the Dragons Bane polearm. Getting your first 100 EM provides a noticeable boost to your vaporize damage, so it's something to prioritize just as much as you'd prioritize crit stats. Other than that, energy recharge is not really needed on Hu Tao thanks to her decent energy generation, but getting 1 or 2 substat rolls is a sweet spot for bursting every rotation. Hu Tao's weapons have just a few standout options that can influence her entire build, so it's important to invest correctly. It should come to no surprise that Staff of Homa is Hu Tao's best polearm by a long shot. Instead, I want you to turn your attention towards Hu Tao's new second best weapon, which is the Staff of Scarlet Sands. While this polearm isn't worth chasing for Hu Tao, if you do have an extra Staff of Scarlet Sands, It's fantastic for Hu Tao, who tends to focus anywhere between 100 to 400 EM depending on her artifacts. Despite not having the ability to fully stack the weapon's passive, the insane 44% crit rate stat this polearm has to offer is all you really need to make this polearm shine as Hu Tao's second best option. Beyond these two premium options that are a step ahead of the rest, there's a lot of polearms that come to mind when building Hu Tao that really depend on refinements or special passive effects. Most notably, an R5 Dragons Bane and an R5 Lithic Spear deal over 90% of the potential damage that Staff of Scarlet Sands can deal. Typically, R5 Dragons Bane is one of the most safe options for Hu Tao as long as you can get enough crit rate and artifacts. Meanwhile, the R5 Lithic Spear paired with two Liyue characters like Xingqiu and Yelan deal respectable damage despite the hindrance of Hu Tao's low base attack. If these two polearms are at lower refinements, then you could also turn towards the Primordial Jade Wingspear, Deathmatch, and White Tassel for crit rate stats. Generally, an R1 Jade Spear and an R1 Deathmatch will perform much better than an R1 Lithic or an R1 Dragons Bane, so definitely shoot for the crit rate option should you not have refinements for other polearms. Although the White Tassel is the ultimate free-to-play option, it's not quite as good as the previous options and forces you to learn the two normal attack combos to really get use out of its passive. Otherwise, it's a great option that is consistent just like the other two crit rate options. With the introduction of Yelan, Hu Tao's team landscape has changed drastically. Now one of the most consistent and strongest Hu Tao teams utilizes the synergy between Xingqiu and Yelan for the Hydro Resonance and a ridiculous amount of Hydro application for Hu Tao to utilize. The last slot can be a variety of supports or off-field damage dealers, with the most common being Zhongli for safety, Kazuha or Sucrose to swirl Hydro and grant the team buffs, Fischl for cheap damage and energy, or either Layla or Diona for cryo shielding and various buffs depending on their builds. The only real drawback to this double Hydro setup is that it requires both Xingqiu and Yelan, which can heavily handicap the rest of your teams that also need Hydro application from these two characters. If you don't have the character depth on your account to use this team, don't worry, there are some more variations of vaporized teams for Hu Tao that we'll get into right now. If we're strictly looking at the most free-to-play friendly teams for Hu Tao, then the double Cryo variation has to be in the conversation. This team takes the core of Hu Tao in either Xingqiu or Yelan and then pairs them with double Cryo to get some freeze and melt reactions off. One of the Cryo characters is always going to be Diona or Layla to protect Hu Tao, who likes to hover at lower HP, while the second Cryo character is going to be either Rosaria or Kaya. Rosaria is favorable for Hu Tao with a crit rate buff on her elemental burst, but Kaya is available to everyone and also has a mobile burst unlike Rosaria. Double Cryo may not provide the highest DPS ceiling compared to other Hu Tao teams, but its consistency and possible no 5-star use outside of Hu Tao herself is always something to be praised. The other team that can also use no 5-stars aside from Hu Tao herself is commonly called VV Vape for its Animo character to swirl Pyro. Alongside Hu Tao and either Yelan or Xingqiu again, this time we have Amber, Thoma, or C4 Yanfei to provide Pyro application needed for Sucrose and Kazuha to swirl with the Forset Virtus and Veneer. Amber with Elegy of the End is a popular pick for players with premium options, but Favonius Warbow for energy is a solid substitute that gives better energy generation to your energy-hungry Hydro characters. Thoma and C4 Yanfei fill in the same role of applying Pyro before Hu Tao takes the field, but their main upside is that they provide a shield for Hu Tao at the same time. The team plays like any other Hu Tao team, but always remember that the point of this specific setup is to swirl Pyro with Sucrose or Kazuha's normal attacks or elemental skill. Before Double Hydro, Double Geo was considered Hu Tao's most comfortable and consistent team composition. The OG team consists of Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Zhongli, and Albedo, but a various of Liyue patches brought Yunjin as an Albedo replacement and Yelan as a Hydro replacement if you have C2. Zhongli and Albedo are such a strong duo for Hu Tao given the Omni Res Shred from Zhongli's shield and Albedo's EM buff on his elemental burst and the Geo Resonance from pairing these two together. When it comes to replacements, if you don't have C2 Yelan, then her Hydro application may get eaten up by Zhongli's pillars and Albedo's flowers, so Xingqiu tends to be favorable in the double Geo setup. With Yunjin as an Albedo replacement, it is heavily encouraged to use a combo with 2 normal attacks for every charge attack to fully take advantage of her normal attack buffing capabilities. Otherwise, she still completes the Geo Resonance with Zhongli as her teammate, which is the main selling point of this team. With that, let me know your thoughts on Hu Tao, whether it be questions about your builds, teams, or general opinions down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this guide or thought it was useful, be sure to support both the video and the channel. You can follow me on Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, or sub to YouTube channel, whatever people do nowadays. Other than that, it's the same as always. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.